For the show, I need to say this concerning Representative Love. I met him back during the flood, when the flood took place. 2010, when the flood hit Nashville. I was attached at that time to another church, pastoring one of their locations. And when the flood hit, you know, we didn't do anything. And Pastor Love, man, they was on the ground out there, man. I was coming all the way from Antioch to Bordeaux, you know, bringing stuff down there, and they was on the ground, man. He was out there actively, man, involved, engaged in that community. And I've been impressed, you know, with him ever since. And now that he stepped out and pretty much followed in his father's footsteps and got into the legislature, and now not only is there, you know, but actually doing something, you know, because he's the kind of guy that's, you know, put the boots on the ground and make things happen. And to hear about the legislation that he's passing, and then some of the other things that, you know, I'm sure he'll talk about as well. You know, I'm just impressed, you know, and you know, just to, you know, say publicly here, you know, that, you know, this, if anybody in the state legislature deserve our vote, he's the guy that deserves it. And we need to support him 100% because he's supporting us 100%, you know.
You know, I think Representative Love, since we're talking about serving and that we're in the political season now and et cetera, what would you say to a large number of people? I think we're in a situation where in some of our local areas we have only 7, 8, 10% of the people participating in the suffrage. What would you say to young people what would you say to people this morning about the importance of participating in politics and what it really means from your perspective being in the state legislature?
Okay, let me say to Pastor Walker, thank you for those kind words. Much of what I do is because my father made it very clear for me to understand that I had no choice but to be engaged in the process because the process shapes everything in our life. I tell folks very clearly, you're not born in this country until there's a birth certificate signed which says you were indeed born at a certain time, at a certain place. I mean, in theory, you have to use a birth certificate to get any other documentation going forward. And you're not dead until you get a death certificate. Let you die and your family try to access your bank account or insurance and there's no death certificate. They can't do it, right? So in that vein, you must be involved in the process, which means our kids must involve themselves in voting. They must look at candidates and look at what the candidates offer, what promises they make. And then if you're not satisfied with the particular candidate, you have the opportunity to vote them out. That's the process we have. Process of evaluating persons and seeing, okay, have you kept your campaign promises? Like Pastor Walker said, I was engaged in the process of helping our community before running for office. I didn't do it because I wanted to run. I did it because I was raised that way, told oftentimes by my father. Apple trees don't produce apples because they want to prove they're an apple tree. They produce apples because they are an apple tree. And so service was coming out of me in the flood, and then chance came to run for office, and I did. And if you look at the bills that I've passed this particular session, to get a bill passed which will now allow the state of Tennessee to form a maternal mortality review board to reduce pregnancy-related deaths, to pass a bill taking the felony portion off of a possession of a half ounce or less of marijuana to save the state $1.7 million in incarceration fees for small amounts of marijuana when we are causing college students to lose their scholarships because of this. So those are my ways of passing good bills and simply asking people, if you're satisfied with the work I've done, vote me back in. If you're not, vote me back out. And that's the will of the people. But if you don't engage in the process, you will not have anybody up there fighting for your rights.
And so it's very, very important in this season as well as any other season, not only to become involved, but to also support those that are already involved. And you think that if we were able to do that, that we will be able to move further.
And the truth of the matter is, Dr. Haney, you're not going to always get to vote somebody in that you want. You may vote and they may lose. I lost my first 3 elections.
But you eventually made it through.
Because I didn't give up.
Okay, and so what we're going to do, we're going to take our second commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.
Know how the process works, which is you got to have somebody there.
You got to.
If you don't, you get left out.
That's what Brenda said all the time.
Yeah.
She say that all the time, that somebody's got to be there.
Joe Armstrong uses this phrase, you may have heard before. He said, if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu.
You be at the table on the menu. That's right.
On the menu.
At the table.
Okay. And so we got 10 minutes. This is our last 10 minutes here. And so now, anything special you want to?
He mentioned about the bill, the decriminalization of for small amounts of marijuana possession.
Okay.
Talk about that.
See, folks don't realize how important it is, because a small amount, half ounce or less, could be granules, could be seeds, but your third arrest was going to be a felony. College students were losing their scholarships. And then you putting folks in, so you're taking a kid who's not a hardened criminal, you put him in prison,
and make him a,
he's going, what is he going to come out like?
That's right, absolutely.
Okay, well, so whatever y'all want to talk about now.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I would like I said, I was.
You want to talk about that, Representative?
Sure.
The impact that it has in the community in terms
Because
of some of the sentences.
Sentencing was not fair.
Yeah, well, let's talk about talk about how
You
the
got
fairness
marijuana
of
possession was a higher penalized crime than cocaine possession.
Well, that's what we'll do. We'll talk about the process of sentencing, and then we'll let you do it from however you want to do it. Okay? It's 10 minutes, and we'll start off with you and you, Representative Love. Thank you and welcome to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Pastor Walker and Representative Love in reference to the criminal justice system in the state of Tennessee. Representative Love, I think you mentioned earlier that you've been involved in some of the more important decisions dealing with sentencing in the state of Tennessee. Why don't you talk about that from your perspective and the importance of how sentencing can impact the life of an individual?
Well, just this past session, I was able to help get a bill passed that would take, again, the felony penalty off of a possession of small amount of marijuana, half ounce or less. Also, I was able to get legislation passed that would increase the value of property stolen to be expunged off your record. The amount stopped at around $900. The governor was going to increase the amount to $2,500 for an E-class felony, but there was no provision to have that amount also expunged. So one of the bills I had passed was to increase E-class felony expungements to $2,500 because the bill had not been changed since 1989. So we were going upon 1989 standards in 2016. The value of things has